Hey there everyone, AJ back again for the Mighty Gluestick channel. I make videos about Dungeons & Dragons lore full-time and have a collection of hundreds of monster ecology and strategy videos on my channel. If you like what I do, please consider subscribing as I upload at least twice a week, and consider my Patreon if you want to support the channel in other ways. Time for a trip back to that land caught between imagination and faith, the Feywild, the land of fairy. As I've been asked to have a chat about the Seelie and Unseelie courts, what they are and how they work, I'm also going to hit you with a few concepts you can use to add additional complexity and structure to your Feywild adventures. I'm going to start by reading the Seelie and Unseelie Courts article by Gwendolyn F.M. Kestrel and Faith M. Priceff, published online in 2002, as always adding some of my own thoughts as we explore the article and all it entails. The Seelie Court. People tend to think of Fae as lovely creatures of almost unearthly beauty and grace. This image epitomizes the Fae of the Seelie Court. Many artists and bards, both Fae and other, have striven to capture the beauty of the Seelie Court. Most have gone mad. None have truly succeeded. Pure manifestations of nature and beauty, the members of the Seelie Court view themselves as the pinnacle of perfection. This elitist attitude restricts status in the court to only pure-blooded Fae. A court Fae can trace their lineage back several millennia, showing nothing but a true Fae heritage. High Fae society and the Fae realms, be they within the Feywild or high society enclaves on the material plane, contain only the creatures whose opinions matter. Politics thrive in this elitist environment. Seelie Fae form cliques and factionalize them amongst themselves. In the endless politicking and gossiping world of the Seelie Court, status can be won by hosting guests, willing or unwilling, or attracting followers with great skill in a craft or performance art. Seelie Court Fae occasionally tolerate the company of beautiful or gifted creatures, preferring those of Fae, Elven or Celestial blood. These court friends may provide companionship and amusements, but only those with pure lineage may hold any sort of position of importance. Admittance to the Seelie Court for outsiders is extremely rare, even more so if the outsiders are not of pure Fae blood. Upon entrance to the court, visitors must be prepared with valuable and unusual gifts for the Queen of Light, or they may find themselves lost in an endless hedge maze. Suitable gifts for the Queen include figurines of wondrous power, gems of brightness, and magical jewellery. The physical appearance of the Seelie Court mirrors nature, to which the Fae are intrinsically linked. White ash trees, strong and stately, with their branches entwining to create a living ceiling, line the throne hall like marble columns. Gossamer streamers of iridescent blues, pinks, and purples wind their way through the boughs. Phosphorescent flowers gleam like lanterns amidst the treetops. Small, semi-precious jewels of amethyst, tiger's eye, and topaz decorate flowers that float down the waterways lining the path of the throne. Statues carved of gold and adorned with gems further attest to the wealth and beauty of the current ruler, as each queen must display more splendour than the previous one or risk the gossip and scorn of her subjects. The throne itself and the queen who sits on it are the focal points of the room. The throne of the Seelie Court is shaped like a large ice dragon, as brilliantly cold and glittery as the Fey nobility themselves. Queen Titania and King Oberon are the current rulers of the Seelie Court, an undisputed beauty. Titania looks unfavourably upon female courtiers or visitors whose appearance rivals hers. This attitude is caused in part by the occasional wanderings of King Oberon's affection. However, her beauty is simply unearthly, and the power of those two Fey gods is quite phenomenal. The Fey nobility often skirt the very edge of divinity. They are primordial powers who derive their might and authority from nature itself and from the stuff of dreams and imagination. Look at it this way: every time a bard tells a tale in a tavern full of people, some small part of their imagination has an actual influence on the Feywild, and that power filters up to the Fey lords. They have no interest in mortal souls, they prefer mortal life. The struggles, hopes, dreams, and drama, love, fear, and hope, anger and triumph of ordinary people, and the extraordinary who inspire others of their kind. The Seelie Court thrives on heroism, love, romance, grace, inspiration, and beauty. Thus, the Seelie Court Fae find the Unseelie Court Fae absolutely repellent. The Unseelie Court, unlike the selective, restrictive Seelie Court, the Unseelie Court welcomes anyone and everything with even a drop of ancestral Fey blood. Fae can and do breed with anything, creating odd, mixed creatures. Most species consider the offspring grotesque creatures. The mutant creatures gravitate towards the Unseelie Court, which welcomes them and gives them an environment where peculiar physiologies and abilities are the norm. The Unseelie Court is more of a hospitable place for non-Fey as well. Court nobles eagerly provide patronage for creatures who are extremely strong, dexterous, clever, beautiful, or talented. Obtaining the sponsorship of a court noble is not without its rewards, nor without its dangers. For instance, a gifted bard whose playing impresses a Fey nobleman might be invited to his castle as a guest. Once there, the bard will be feted and asked to play every night, and never permitted to leave. Ruling over all these oddities is the Queen of Air and Darkness, a Fey of unsurpassed beauty and grace. The Queen of Air and Darkness has no current consort and no surviving children. The court is rife with gossip and political manoeuvring as each noble carries the Queen's favour in hopes of being named the royal heir. Outsiders not of Feyblight are rarely admitted to the Unseelie Court. Visitors must be prepared with unusual powerful gifts for the queens, or might find themselves the quarry of a nightmarish hunt. Suitable gifts for the queen include figurines of horrific power, gems of darkness, and cursed jewellery. After a millennia of indiscriminate breeding, the physical appearance of the Unseelie Court mirrors the macabre. Twisted columns, trees forced into unnatural growth by royal gardeners are scattered haphazardly throughout the hall. Curtains of shadows hide blood-soaked alcoves. Drawn back for times of celebration, these gaping crevasses reveal uninvited guests captured for the amusement of the court. Riotous blooms of nightshades and bloodworts grow red and glow in the evening, providing a maddening light to the misshapen court. The throne of the Unseelie is shaped like a great shadow dragon, a creature of midnight and darkness, like the queen herself. Both courts are matriarchal monarchies. Sometimes males endeavour to take the throne, but none have survived the rites of succession. Each prospective ruler undergoes a lengthy rite of passage. Not every candidate survives these secret tests and rituals. From both courts, the Seelie and Unseelie, the heir undertakes the trial with the former queen when she dies or expresses a willingness to abdicate her throne. In the final rite of succession, the aspiring queen ascends to sit on the throne. Sometimes a candidate dies at this point, rejected in some fashion by the powerful magical throne itself. If the prospective queen lives through this final ceremony, the court acknowledges her as its rightful ruler, and whatever mysterious powers the throne contains are imparted to her. The Dungeon Master's Guide has this to say: Seelie and Unseelie do not directly correlate with good and evil, though many mortals make that equation. Many Seelie Fae are good and many Unseelie are evil, but their opposition to each other stems from the Queen's jealous rivalry, not abstract moral concerns. Though I have to say, here the 5th edition game designers have taken a broad and largely unnecessary liberty with the lore of the Fae, which has created a disparity between the bulk of the existing literature and the new edition, which I assure you is probably going to end up being corrected with the next generation of creative directors. This is something I've noticed as I study these sorts of things in the past. When there's been a great divergence from the lore, it got corrected fairly swiftly. In an earlier Dungeon Master's Guide, it states that ugly denizens of Feywild, such as Fomorians and hags, are almost never members of either court. And Volo's Guide to Monsters, from an earlier edition, says that because both the Seelie Court and the Unseelie Court appreciate and revere true beauty among the Fae, hags are almost never found in either place. The Summer Queen and the Queen of Air and Darkness recognise that hags have valuable knowledge and impressive magic, but they can't abide the stain on the beauty of their surroundings, so most hags are excluded from both courts. So the Unseelie Fae Court may have some grotesque and macabre sort of things, but there's still unearthly beauty, and these are basically put on display as a political opposition, you could say, an aesthetic snub to the Seelie Court. The Unseelie Court is not always evil. It certainly doesn't extend its membership to those who are not trustworthy or reliable, because the Unseelie Court is not stupid, far from it. These are some of the oldest and most experienced beings in intrigue and politics that can be found in the entire multiverse. It's much more the case that the difference between the two courts is more political than it is a matter of simplistic expressions or impressions of goodness or badness, beauty or ugliness. These are factions ruled by extremely powerful figures with magnified personality and influence. The rivalries and drama that they have between each other is the entire reason there is a separation between these courts, and is the fuel that drives the entire dance of Fey politics. Be wary, mortal, when getting involved with the relationships between immortals, because what they may call whimsy may be deadly for you. Wikipedia classifies the fairies and says that the categorization of fairies based on court is whether or not a fairy is light or dark. The Seelie Court are known to seek help from humans, to warn them, those who have accidentally offended them, and to return human kindness with favours of their own. Still, a fairy belonging to this court will avenge insults and can be prone to mischief. The most common time of day to see them is twilight. Other names for the Seelie Court are the Shining Throne, or the Golden Ones, and the Summer Court. Seelies are known for playing pranks on humans and having a light-hearted attitude, forgetting their sorrows quickly and not realising how they may be affecting the humans they play the pranks on. The Unseelie Court consists of darkly inclined fairies. Unlike the Seelie Court, no offence is necessary to bring down their assaults. As a group, or host, they appear at night and assault travellers, often carrying them through the air, beating them and forcing them to commit acts such as shooting at cattle. Like the beings of the Seelie Court, they are not always benevolent, neither are the fairies of the Unseelie Court always malevolent. Most Unseelies can become fond of a particular human if they're viewed as respectful, and would choose to make them something of a pet. The real meat and potatoes of the Fey Court are the Fey nobility and the powers themselves, and it seems easier to view them as a Fey pantheon, but they don't often behave anything like one would expect from a being with the powers of a god. To complicate things a little bit more, different types of Fey will have their own legendary heroes and villains who are elevated divine status through their folklore and may be presented as such to any mortal scholar who asks or investigates. But these beings are sometimes just very powerful, living immortal Fey nobles who have a special relationship with certain types of lesser Fey. A bunch of proud people talking about their leader or provider, but such is the nature of the Feywild, bragging about and making up stories or legends about one of those immortals will actually give them extraordinary powers, such as the alien nature of the plane of fables. The Seelie Court is its own planar realm that travels between the various upper planes as its members desire, most frequently on the Beastlands or on the twilight layer of Brooks, Ysgard and Arborea. It normally manifests as a wooded area with many glades. Its weather changes in accordance with Titania's mood. It may be peaceful and calm or tempestuous and wild. It is normally lit by moonlight, but Titania can summon sunlight if she desires, so the time of day really is subjective. The members of the court dwell in thickets, bowers, or underground halls, or hidden behind veils of magic. The souls of those who worship members of the inner circle in life dwell here as well, moving as the court does, as petitioners. The flow of time is variable and strange in this realm, so visitors may return to other realms and planes to find that more or less time has passed than they experienced. Glimpses of the past and future may be seen in reflective surfaces throughout the realm. Visitors are advised against accepting gifts from residents of the Seelie Court, as this may bind them in fealty to the givers. Avatars of the Seelie Court may also hunt within the fading land known as the Court of Rings. The Seelie Court is divided into two circles. The inner circle is closely associated with Queen Titania and includes her consort Oberon, their children Damp and Verenestra, the court jester Squelch and Echthegern, their steed. The outer circle is more loosely allied, and either do not consider Titania to be their liege, or Skerrit does not, or spend most of their time away from the court, as Fonghula does. Still, Titania bears as much love as she does for those outer circle members as she does for the inner circle. It's just that they come and go as they please. The Seelie Court is allied with the Seldarine, or Elven Pantheon. Erevan Illiser, who is said to be Echthegern's mother, is especially close ally. This next direct quote is taken from this Planescape setting sourcebook, Plane of Chaos, and will illustrate some of the differences between 5th edition lore, I think. Just as woodlands on prime material worlds often have a magical heart in which fairy folk hide from crasser eyes, so are there secret hearts hidden away within various woodlands of the Beastlands, Arborea, and Ysgard, the Planes of Chaos as they call them. The Seelie Court travels among these magical bowers at the whim of its queen. Titania is the primary power of the Seelie Court. Though chaotic in nature herself, the fairy queen provides a point of some stability for the thistle-brained powers of the court. 5 powers form the inner court around the queen: Oberon, the queen's consort; Verenestra, the flamboyant and vain dryad goddess; Damph, the mysterious god of satyrs and Korid, Squelch, the trickster god of leprechauns, and Etzthegard, the lord of unicorns. Other sylvan powers, with a bunch of names that I'm not even going to try and pronounce, roam the fringes of the court, never involving themselves deeply in its intrigues, victories, or defeats. But they're never far from Queen Titania's ear either. The Seelie Court is the magical bower home of the sylvan deities, a place that moves among the outer planes from plane to plane, sometimes connecting to Yggdrasil, sometimes part of the Beastlands, Arboreal, or Isgard. The Seelie Court usually manifests as a calm woodland, sparkling with moonlit dew in endless twilight. When Titania is in a rage, however, the woodland changes its face, shaking with storms that send most fairy folk cowering. Fortunately, this doesn't happen often. When Titania desires, the woodland may glow with gentle sunlight instead, but overall the fairies prefer twilight. Given this realm's migrant nature, it doesn't give rise to its any towns of its own. The queen and her inner court circle reside in a bower under the open air, with nothing but walls of magic to keep them safe from casual view. Members of the outer circle dwell in thickets, under trees, or on open hillsides, as suits their particular nature. Some inhabit magical halls under the earth of toadstool-ringed halls, the hills, while many of the realm's petitioners, mainly fairy folk but with an occasional mortal, reside on those hillsides as well. Time may pass very strangely for any being within the realm. It may move slowly, so that while mere hours pass within, decades pass without, or it may move so quickly that while 100 years pass within, outside there passes but a day. Outsiders should take care not to eat or drink anything offered to them in the realm, for in doing so they give their fealty to the one who offers it. This fealty acts as a permanent gesh. Each time a commanded service is performed, the one to whom fealty is owed may command another. The only ways of breaking the gesh are by using a wish, by tricking the master into commanding an impossible task, or by appealing to a high-ranking fairy. This last one almost never works because they find such situations quite hilarious. But eating and drinking aren't the only dangers for mortals here. If they accept any other gift, the giver may demand one in return, and fairy demands are often cruel by mortal standards. The only thing that creatures of this realm have to offer of possible service to mortals is information. Because they wander as much as they do, and because they are as curious as they are, fairy creatures tend to see a lot of the multiverse. Of course, given that information and getting that information out of them is usually a real trick, and knowing whether to trust them to tell the truth is another. So the Seelie and Unseelie courts are pocket realms. They are political factions. They are cults of personality. They are some of the oldest and most powerful beings of myth and legend. They are flip sides of the same coin. They are the elite rulership and the most fickle and influential group of immortal beings in the lands of fairy. Just as the Feylords have power over the Feywild around them, they should also be strong hints that the Feywild is a border realm between dream, imagination, and faith. The planes of the outer wheel of the D&D cosmos are divided up and defined largely by how they match up with certain mythologies and beliefs, faiths, pantheons, but also simply by the alignment they represent in the game. Well, if the Feywild is thought of as in between the mortal world and outer planes, we have a lot of evidence with the Archfey and the Celestials that this is indeed the case. Then there are zones of the Feywild that are closer to one realm or another, with a vibe or influence on that region and what Feylords dwell there. This is sort of an idea that I ponder for hours on end. So if you have a Fey realm which is close to, say, Pandemonium, for instance, is it a dark and evil place with screaming and torment going on in the nighttime? See what I mean? You can subtly blend these two ideas together, like look at a plane of existence and then look at a Feylord and imagine what they would be if they have combined forces, so to speak. I tend to think that the upper planes would be closer to the Feywild and the lower planes would be closer to the Shadowfell, with the neutral planes being closer to the prime material plane, a bit easier to access in each case, and spilling over here and there with a thematic presence in that zone, unlike a more fixed idea that could be represented on a map, What if it were tied more to the inhabitants of the Feywild, just as in Ravenloft, the domains of dread are tied to the Dark Lords, who are kind of trapped in their own nightmare bubble, complete with its own population and territory. Fae are a bit more chaotic, but if we look to myth and fairy tales, they do tend to have a place associated with them. So evil hag in the cottage made of gingerbread and sweets who traps and eats youngsters. The Goblin King in the labyrinth, complete with a belg of eternal stench. Perhaps one could make a random roll table, combine Fey Lord concepts with tropes for landscapes and also planes of existence, more to the upper side of the wheel of the cosmos. Some powers of the Feywild include Nayrskayak. This is the Fey deity of mischief and pranks. His symbol is a smile. Nayrskayak appears as a tiny, 2-foot-long, thin-bodied dragon with a prehensile tail, gossamer butterfly wings, and a huge smile. Nayrskayak is an offspring of the draconic deity Io and a member of the Seelie Court. Another draconic deity, Hlal, is also portrayed as a fairy dragon, and the two may be one and the same. Nayrskayak is revered by pseudo-dragons and fairy dragons alike, as well as sprites, pixies, and grigs. Theon Gwala, or Finn Gwala, which means fair shoulder, is a deity of swan maze, communication, and sorority. Her symbol is a white feather. Fingwala is a small, very slender human woman with red hair and green eyes. She wears white feathered patches on her shoulders and on the crown of her head, and gossamer armour. She may also appear as a giant swan. Fingwala is revered by Swan Maze, a secretive organisation of female human rangers with the ability to transform into swans. They continue to worship the deities who were their patrons before their transformation as well. Dav, meaning horned beast, is the deity of dance, song, and celebration. His symbol is flutes, pipes, and a drum. Dav appears as a male Corrid with long, tawny auburn hair tied into braids. He carries a set of pipes, a wooden flute, and a harp. A physically powerful god, he may ambush hostile invaders into the fairylands. He is a god of the inner circle of the Seelie Court. Dav is the son of Titania and Oberon. Dav's main worshippers are Corrids, Satyrs, and Atamis. According to monster mythology, Titania worries so much about the various sylvan races that Dav felt compelled to take over some of her responsibilities and therefore lighten her load. Kuevin, meaning kindly, is a Kilmorley deity of food and shy friendship. His symbol is a tiny bowl and pin. Kuevin is a large-nosed, mouthless, brownie-like creature only a foot in height. He wears gossamer armour covered in thick woolen rags to help him keep him warm. He grumbles nervously from time to time. Kuevin sometimes dwells in the Seelie Court realm. It's almost like it's pronounced Kevin. Iktian, meaning Lord of Horses, is the unicorn deity of healing, loyalty, and protection. He's also the god of Pickett. His symbol is a unicorn horn. Iktian is depicted as a winged unicorn with a white coat and slight grey dappling on his belly. There is a grey fringe on his mane and beard. Iktian is a member of the Seelie Court. Myths differ on his parentage, but most often he is regarded as the son of the Kirin god Coriel. Sometimes he is said to be the offspring of a humanoid trickster god, such as Erevan Ilisir, who took on female form in order to conceive and give birth to Iktian. Skerrit is the deity worshipped by the centaur race. It's an unusual name for a centaur god. Skerrit is also known as the Forester. His symbol is an oak growing from an acorn. Skerrit may appear as a creature of the forest. Sometimes his spirit will temporarily possess plants and animals in order to do his will. In his centaur form, Skerrit wields a bow and a spear. When he's in the forest, the branches and leaves of the trees move to impede his foes' attacks. Skerrit is a member of Titania's Seelie Court. He's part of the outer circle of the Seelie Court. Skerrit's glade is located on the outer plane of the Beastlands near Aelonia's Grove of the Unicorns. Though he is probably the best known member of Titania's Seelie Court, he prefers to maintain his own realm separately. Skerrit is worshipped mainly by centaurs and satyrs, but those of Sylvan Elven heritage who are more neutral in alignment also revere him. Squillace is the leprechaun deity of trickery and illusions. His symbol is a clover leaf or a pointed red hat. Squillace appears as a handsome male leprechaun, 2 feet in height, with a fine silk cloak and a pointed red cap. As the Seelie Court's court jester, Squillace may speak impudently even to Queen Titania. He's on especially good terms with fellow tricksters Nather Squiglatch and Erevan Illiser. Squiglatch is believed to have been born from a magical plant on the plane of Arborea, an example of a deity who's the natural world becoming adopted into the Feywild. Squiglatch is worshipped by leprechauns and other tiny fey creatures, possibly any sort of fey creature that is derived from a plant. Veronestra is the fey deity of female fairies, charm and beauty. Her symbol is a filigree-edged silver mirror, vanity. Veronestra chooses to appear as any demure, slim female fairy of unearthly fey beauty. I mean, so beautiful that mortals are in danger of never being able to look away. She is always barefooted, wearing only gossamer garments the size of handkerchiefs to provide her with a semblance of modesty. She stands 4.5 feet tall in height. Veronestra is the daughter of Titania and one of the inner circle of the Seelie Court. Veronestra is revered primarily by dryads, nymphs, and sylphs. Titania is the fey deity of fairy folk and the realms, friendship and magic. Her symbol is a white diamond with a blue star glowing in its centre, the antithesis of the black diamond symbol of her sister, the Queen of Air and Darkness. Titania is described in monster mythology as a beautiful female fairy, only 3.5 feet in height, with gossamer wings, pale skin, a perfect complexion and cheekbone structure, and penetrating blue eyes, carrying a diamond-tipped wand with which she can instantly call up powerful storms. Titania is specifically revered by brownies, bookers, pixies, and sprites as their patron. There are multiple versions of Titania in the various settings of Dungeons & Dragons, so rather than say one is more current than the other, let's say that Titania is part of the D&D multiverse, though perhaps not a single divine pan-dimensional being. She's just a collection of the same being in different planes of existence. The Queen of Air and Darkness is the fey deity of magic, especially illusions, darkness, and murder. Her long-lost true name may never be spoken among the Fey. Her unholy symbol is a black diamond. The Queen of Air and Darkness is a bodiless, invisible being, but she can be perceived magically as a fairy with pale, angular features, blood, black eyes, and the mane of black hair. She is beautiful, but hers is a terrible, eldritch beauty that chills the bone, like a porcelain doll. The Queen is cold and utterly emotionless. The Queen of Air and Darkness is the sister of Titania, once a princess and heir to the Seelie Court in the deep sylvan realm of Ladinian. The evil queen, her once bright spirit corrupted and dead, now hates and opposes Titania's Seelie Court and everything they stand for. Her birth as the Queen of Darkness was the destruction of Ladinian and caused the Seelie Court to start its eternal wander. Because she embodies the corruption that can take root in the heart of the Elvish race, Corellin, Lorathian, Erevan, Illiser, Rilliphane, Ralathil, Cernine, Moonbow, and Solinor Thilandira also consider her an enemy. The Queen's Unseelie Court can be found on the plane of Pandemonium. There, the Queen Goddess rules a throne of shadows. Her court is filled with evil, twisted fake elves and undead, hellhounds and yethhounds slaver at her insubstantial feet. See, this is how this lore is so different. That's from like a Wikipedia article, so it's actually quite corrupted. The Queen of Air and Darkness is served by Unseelie sprites, quicklings, evil elves, and bramble fairies, among others. The Queen of Air and Darkness is blamed with the creation of all evil fey races, including quicklings, Filarans, and Spriggans, which is not true. Please hit the like button if you made it this far. Subscribe if you like what I do. Check out my Patreon for some exclusive content and all the full scripts for these videos. Buy some merchandise. Wear your geek with pride. And as always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.